Thanks very much. Africa Day, you're here for the African Diaspora Conference. We know that it's been a big conference because the cops have all been out and the horses and everything, so it's a big thing. Obviously, good to focus on the continent in a business sense.
Great way, actually. The annual commemoration of the 1963 formation of the Organization of African Union, which was recently during the 2000s, was now brought to was now reformed or so, or rebranded to be African Union. So brilliant and great to see all the leaders coming together to forge a way forward towards making Africa a great place.
Okay, so where are we in the growth story of Africa right now? How would you evaluate it? Because of course you write for the Africa Entrepreneur magazine and you closely watch dynamics that are changing. It seems there's a lot of excitement. Africa is growing at a pace that we haven't seen it for some time now, and outpacing, of course, growth in the developed markets. So where do we stand in the growth story of Africa?
Where are we? Very interesting question. For the past decade, actually, it will be interesting to know that Africa average, or maybe let me say sub-Saharan Africa, has been growing average of 5.6%. So where are we today? I think we're making efforts. We're making a great effort in terms of development, in terms of poverty alleviation, and so on. But I think there is still a lot that still needs to be done, especially in terms of addressing these issues, in terms of corruption, in terms of unemployment in Africa, and so on.
So do we have a paradox here in that we've got strong growth, and we've had strong growth for some years? We in South Africa look with envy to many countries in Africa where they're having 6% growth. But you're saying the benefits, the supposed benefits, are not coming through.
Yeah. Actually, I don't think South Africa needs to look with envy or so on, because actually South Africa and Nigeria is still the biggest economy in Africa, you know.
Including Angola there.
Oh yeah. There is actually the big five. I call them the big five. In terms of investment opportunities, I call them the giants, which is Ghana, Ethiopia, Nigeria, Tanzania, and then South Africa. But they are not the big five. Those are just the investment opportunity areas to be. But the big five, you talk of Angola, like you said, Kenya, Nigeria, South Africa, and so on. But one thing I want to say is South Africa need not to look with envy. South Africa is still a big place to invest. With 50 million people, it got $524 billion purchasing power. Together with Nigeria, also 300 and something billion purchasing power. So I think the two great economies, Nigeria and South Africa, needs to just come together and say, what is the way forward? How can we help to make Africa great, you know? And very interesting also, I might also want to point out that we can only achieve this if different regions, the West African region, the SADC region, and so on, come together to forge a way forward, to unite.
Do you think that diplomatic relations between Nigeria and South Africa, for example, have improved? Because they have set up that commerce between, that chamber of commerce between South Africa and Nigeria to enhance relations between the two countries. Do you think that we've seen an improvement on that front?
There's very great improvement, actually, because I was reading yesterday, the Vice President of Nigeria, Honorable Sambo, is currently here, so he met up with the Deputy President of South Africa. So very great relationships, and I think recently, currently, or maybe in future, South Africa will be getting their oil or so from Nigeria and so on. So there's great partnership there, which is very interesting.
What about the diaspora? This conference has been going on, and one imagines that what it's been about is Africa has lost some of its people. We have a Nigerian diaspora in South Africa. There are a lot of Nigerians here.
I'm one of them.
But there is an issue with the loss of skills where people have gone to other countries, North America, Europe, and so on, to seek their fortune, and perhaps they don't come back. And Africa badly, if that growth is to be sustained and the benefits are to come through, you need those skills. Yeah,
obviously you need that, but I think those skills, we don't need to rush them to come. We don't need to pressure them to come back. I think they're doing great stuff. I think they have a great influence on what is happening in Africa. So I think all those Africans in diaspora in the States, South Africa and so on, I think they just need to make a great impact. They need to influence the governments of their different respective countries and so on, in order to to influence development and make change in Africa.
And they are sending money back to Africa. I mean, $40 billion in diaspora remittances sent back last year. And that really, that's according to the AFDB. But that really is a sign that they are putting money back into the economies, but you want the skills. There are some positives. Nigeria, you've got the finance minister, Konjo Iweala, you've got Oscar Nyema setting up the NSC. What about the smaller African countries? Is it not an area we need to focus on, how to get skills into smaller African countries that need it perhaps more than South Africa and Nigeria?
It's an area we need to focus on, definitely. That was why I mentioned that I think what we have to do is the African Union itself now needs to come together. Obviously, there is an election, I think, next month or next 2 months to get a new president for that. Even if the current one is still staying on, the idea will be to organize regions, let's say the ECOWAS region, Economic Community of West African States, that's where Nigeria and Ghana and so on, and then SADC and all those regions, just to organize them to say, how do we help those smaller African states and how do we come together? So the main thing is all about unity, it's all about helping the smaller ones to grow. And
what about your field of interest, which is entrepreneurship? And the point has been made many times, jobs are not created by big companies. Sometimes if they go into a new area maybe, but really entrepreneurs will create the businesses that create the jobs. Where is entrepreneurship in Africa? Is it easy to start a business?
It's not easy. It's not easy. And I don't think it's only in Africa. It's actually everywhere in the world. Entrepreneurship is very difficult. It's a life career. So one thing is this, in terms of, look at the US. US got a culture of entrepreneurship. In Africa, we don't have that. In Africa,
why do you think that's so? Do you think that, I mean, many are saying that sometimes because you can live off the land, perhaps, that you can go to the closest tree. There is food around in some places, not all places, that there isn't that motivation always.
You know what happens? Look at US and look at Africa. When an entrepreneur fails in US, it's fine. They will still support him, or agencies will still support him to try again. But in Africa, if someone fails, they will tell you, your family, you know, and those family support structures, the agents of socialization, the family, the government, and so on, if they don't motivate you or ignite you to try again, it becomes very difficult. So that is where the two continents differ. And what we're trying to do now is to, as African entrepreneurs, obviously, is to create that hope for Africans, is to say that entrepreneurship, you should be passionate about it. It takes your energy and so on, but it's something that you can do. It's something to ignite Africa's economy. It's something to make Africa a place to be. So we're trying to make entrepreneurship fashionable. And next week, actually, at the conference in Sentin, which is continuation of the entrepreneurial leadership, we're going to emphasize more on this and see a way forward to forge ahead towards making this happen.
Well, great to have you with us, Kizito. Thank you for joining us. Of course, as you say, one of the fellow Nigerians living in South Africa. Great to have the traditional outfit that you're wearing as well. Kizito Okechukwu.
Brightens up the studio.
Yeah, certainly does.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate your time. Thanks.
Kizito Okechukwu, Head of Research and Editor of the African Entrepreneur magazine.